Welcome to Nogai Global Stories Africa, a channel dedicated to powerful stories of courage, leadership, and peace, where the most remarkable personalities of history come alive. On October 20th, 2011, cameras captured shocking images. Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, one of the longest-serving leaders of Africa, was pulled from a drainage pipe. Rebel forces surrounded him. His face was bloody. His clothes were torn. Within minutes, he was dead. This was the end of a man who held total control over Libya for 42 years. But how did a poor boy born in a desert tent become one of the most unpredictable leaders in modern history? How did he change Libya from one of the poorest countries of Africa into one of its richest? And what caused his dramatic fall during the Arab Spring? This is a complete story of Muammar Gaddafi, revolutionary, dictator, and one of the most fascinating figures of the 20th century. Stay with us because this story has more twists and turns than you can imagine. To understand Gaddafi, we need to understand the Libya he was born into. In the 1940s, Italy controlled Libya. The Libyan people had fought hard against Italian colonizers for many years. After World War II ended, France and the United Kingdom divided Libya between them. In 1951, Libya finally became independent. King Idris I and the Sanusi dynasty took power. King Idris I was friendly with Western countries. He helped British economic and military interests. Libya stayed poor and underdeveloped. Most Libyans lived in poverty, while their king lived in luxury. Then, in 1959, everything changed. Workers discovered oil in Libya. Within just a few years, huge amounts of oil money began flowing into the country. Libya went from one of the poorest nations of the world to one of the wealthiest. But there was a big problem. Foreign petroleum companies controlled the oil production. They set prices to help their own countries. They took half of the money. The Libyan people saw very little of this new found wealth. King Idris also let the United States build and run a huge military airbase in Libya. He received millions of dollars in exchange. To many young Libyans, their country was still controlled by foreigners, just in a different way. This was the world that shaped Muammar Gaddafi, a world of colonial rule, foreign control, and huge inequality. And it would push him toward revolution. Muammar Gaddafi was born in 1942 into a poor Bedouin family. His parents lived in a tent in the Libyan desert near the town of Sirte. His family belonged to the Qatafa tribe. They were Arabized Berbers who had been forced to leave eastern Libya. From his earliest days, Gaddafi heard stories from his father about the bitter fight of the Libyan people against the Italian colonizers. According to Gaddafi, his grandfather died fighting the Italians. His father was wounded during World War I. These stories of resistance and sacrifice planted the seeds of revolution in the mind of young Muammar. The family of Gaddafi were nomads. They lived in tents and made their living growing barley and trading livestock. As the youngest of 6 children and the only son, Muammar received lots of love and attention from his parents and sisters. When he was about 9 or 10 years old, his father made a big sacrifice. Despite being poor, he sent Muammar to school for the first time in Sirte. Education in Libya was not free, but his father believed it would help his son. Young Gaddafi went to a Quranic school. The religious teaching he received there would affect him throughout his life. He once said that everything, including the atomic bomb, could be found in the Quran. He was a devout Muslim, but he would later use religion as a political tool, explaining it in ways that supported his own ideas. Life was hard for young students. During the week, Gaddafi slept in a mosque. Only on weekends and holidays did he walk 20 miles to visit his parents. As a poor Bedouin boy, he faced bullying and unfair treatment from his wealthier classmates who lived in the city. When Muammar was 14 years old, his family moved to the Vazan region in southern Libya. He went to the Seba Preparatory School. It was during this time that everything changed for young Gaddafi. In Egypt, a leader named Gamal Abdel Nasser was promoting Arab pride, Arab unity, and opposition to Western imperialism. His message excited the Arab world, and young Gaddafi was fascinated. Gaddafi observed the revolutionary ideas coming out of the Egypt of Nasser. He listened eagerly to the voice of the Arabs on Cairo radio. He memorized the speeches of Nasser about Arab unity and his attacks on Western imperialism. The most valued possession of Gaddafi became his copy of The Philosophy of the Revolution by Nasser. At just 17 years old, Muammar Gaddafi began dreaming of leading his own revolution in Libya. At school, Gaddafi did not just dream. He took action. He led demonstration to protest the murder of Patrice Lumumba, the Congolese independent leader. He protested French atomic bomb testing. He demonstrated in favor of anti-colonial revolution of Algeria. His political activism got him kicked out of school, but Gaddafi did not stop. He finished his education at Musarata, where he started another group of revolutionary students. The stage was set. The revolutionary Gaddafi was about to enter the military and began his plot to overthrow the king. If you are finding this story fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into most controversial figures of history. In 1964, Gaddafi joined the Libyan Military Academy. This was his path to power. At the academy, Gaddafi had a deep distrust of older army officers. Instead, he focused on bringing in men his own age. With them, he created a secret organization called the Free Unionist Officers. Their goal, Arab unity. Their method, revolution. Gaddafi spent several months in 1966 in Britain at Beaconsfield on a signal training course. He finished at the military academy in 1966 and then spent more time at the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst, Great Britain. During these years, anger toward King Idris I was growing. The army and the expanding middle class increasingly hated the power of the king and his old-fashioned policies. King Idris and his government were accused of widespread favoritism and corruption. Despite the new found oil wealth of Libya, most citizens stayed stuck in poverty. The nation was behind in education, healthcare, housing, and social services. The oil money was going into the pockets of the king, his family, and a small group of wealthy Libyans. Gaddafi patiently built his network of revolutionary leaders. They met in secret. They planned carefully, and they waited for the right moment. That moment came in September 1969. King Idris I was out of the country, receiving medical treatment in Turkey. On October 1st, 1969, at 2:30 a.m., Gaddafi and his Free Unionist officer struck. The coup was quick and almost bloodless. Within 2 hours, they controlled all major government buildings, the radio station, and the military bases across Libya. They met almost no resistance. By dawn, it was over. Gaddafi appeared on the radio. He announced that the Libyan Arab Republic had been born. The king was out. The revolution had won. Gaddafi was just 27 years old. He held the rank of captain, but soon he promoted himself to colonel. At first, the Revolutionary Council ruled together, but Gaddafi quickly became the most powerful figure. By 1970, he was a clear leader. He shut down all opposition. He took control of the media. He began building a cult of personality around him. One of his first acts was to close down British and American military bases. He kicked out foreign troops. He told Western oil companies they would no longer control the oil of Libya. He raised oil prices and increased the share of Libya of oil revenues from 50% to 70%. Gaddafi poured money into education, healthcare, and infrastructure. He built schools and hospitals. He improved roads and housing. Literacy rate rose. Healthcare access expanded for many Libyans. Life got better under Gaddafi, at least in the earlier years. He championed Arab nationalism and African unity. He spoke out against Israel and supported Palestinian causes. He positioned himself as a revolutionary leader fighting against Western imperialism. But Gaddafi was not satisfied with just transforming Libya. He wanted to spread his revolution across the Arab world and Africa. He deeply believed in Arab nationalism and Pan-African unity. However, his aggressive foreign policy made him many enemies. He tried to unite Libya with Egypt, then with Syria, then with Tunisia, then with Morocco. Every attempt failed. In 1973, his interference in the internal politics of other countries earned him the hatred of other Arab leaders. In 1973, Gaddafi announced his third universal theory, a mix of socialism and Islam that he claimed was better than capitalism or communism. He published the Green Book, his guide to his political philosophy. It was required reading for all Libyans. Gaddafi created his own vision of direct democracy called Jumhuriya, meaning state of the masses. Local committee would make decisions instead of traditional government. In reality, Gaddafi controlled everything. His revolutionary committees spied on the population, enforced loyalty, and eliminated opposition. Anyone who questioned him disappeared. Dissidents were killed. Opponents were executed. Human rights organizations documented widespread torture and political repression. Still, Gaddafi continued pouring money into Libya. He built the Great Man-Made River, a massive irrigation project that brought water from deep underground in the Sahara to the coastal cities. It remains one of the largest engineering projects in the world. By the 1980s, Libya had some of the highest living standards in Africa. Free education up to university level, free health care, housing assistance, subsidized food and fuel, no interest on loans. For ordinary Libyans who stayed out of politics, life was reasonably better. But internationally, Gaddafi was becoming more isolated and more dangerous. Throughout the 1980s, Gaddafi supported revolutionary movement and terrorist organizations around the world. He sent weapons and money to groups fighting against Western interests. He allegedly supported the Irish Republican Army in Northern Ireland. Palestinian militant groups, and various African rebel movements. Libya was accused of training terrorists at camps inside the country. In 1984, a British policewoman was shot and killed outside the Libyan embassy in London during the protest. The gunfire came from inside the embassy. Britain cut diplomatic ties with Libya. In 1984, a bomb exploded at a nightclub in West Berlin, killing 2 American soldiers and a Turkish woman. On April 15, 1986, the United States launched Operation El Dorado Canyon airstrike against Libya. American planes bombed military targets in Tripoli and Benghazi. The attack killed more than 40 people. Among the dead was the adopted daughter of Gaddafi. Gaddafi himself barely escaped, but the worst was yet to come. On October 21, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland. All 259 people on the plane died. Another 11 people on the ground were killed. A total of 270 lives lost. Investigators believe 2 Libyan intelligence agents were responsible. Many thought the attack was payback for the 1986 U.S. bombing. Gaddafi insisted he did not order it, but he refused to hand over the suspect. The United States and United Nations imposed harsh economic sanctions on Libya. The government of Gaddafi was now an international pariah, an outcast, but history was about to take another expected turn. By the late 1990s, the situation of Gaddafi had become desperate. Libya was isolated. Oil prices had dropped. The economy was struggling. The sanctions were destroying the country. Gaddafi needed to change course. Through the help of South African President Nelson Mandela and UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, Gaddafi agreed in 1999 to hand over the 2 Lockerbie suspects to the Netherlands for trial under Scottish law. UN sanctions were suspended. Then came September 11, 2001, after the terrorists attacked America. Gaddafi made one of the first and strongest terms against Al-Qaeda by any Muslim leader. He appeared on US television for interviews, something unthinkable just years earlier. In August 2003, Libya formally accepted responsibility for the Lockerbie bombing. Libya agreed to pay $2.7 billion, up to $10 million per family, to the families of the victims. Following the U.S. invasion of Iraq and overthrow of Saddam Hussein in 2003, Gaddafi made a stunning announcement. Libya had an active weapons of mass destruction program, including chemical weapons and nuclear weapons development. But he was willing to destroy it all and allow international inspectors in. In March 2004, British Prime Minister Tony Blair became one of the first Western leaders in decades to visit Libya and meet Gaddafi publicly. By 2006, the US restored full diplomatic relations with Libya. Libya was removed from the list state sponsor of terrorism. Gaddafi had done the impossible. He had rehabilitated his image and brought Libya back into the international community. At the same time, Gaddafi emerged as the champion of African unity. He proposed United States of Africa with a single currency, united military, and common passport. He served as chairman of the African Union in 2009. But the cooperation of Gaddafi with the West would not last. He began turning his back on deals with Western oil companies. In 2009, he threatened to renationalize Libyan oil, he increasingly granted oil concessions to Chinese, Indians, and Japanese, and Russian companies instead of Western ones. He supported the position of Russia on NATO expansion. In early 2011, the National Oil Company of Libya announced it would grant no new oil concession to Western companies. Libya began selling off its US and British assets, and then the Arab Spring. In the late 2010 and earlier 2011, protests toppled dictators in Tunisia and Egypt. In February 2011, protests erupted in Libya, first in Benghazi, then spreading across the country. After more than 40 years under the rule of Gaddafi, Libyans were demanding change. They wanted freedom. They wanted democracy. They wanted Gaddafi gone. The response of Gaddafi was brutal. He ordered police and hired soldiers to fire on protesters. He sent artillery, fighter jets, and helicopter gunship against demonstration sites. But the violence only fueled uprising. What began as protest became a full-scale civil war. Rebel forces took control of eastern Libya. Government officials began switching sides. In March 2011, NATO began military intervention on the side of the rebel. NATO aircraft bombed the forces of Gaddafi. The tide began to change. By August 2011, rebel forces captured Tripoli. Gaddafi and his family fled the capital. He retreated to his hometown of Saad, one of the last loyalist strongholds. For weeks, Gaddafi held out in Sirte, moving between abandoned buildings to avoid fierce bombardment by rebel forces. On the morning of October 20, 2011, Gaddafi and his remaining loyalists tried to escape Sirte in a convoy of about 50 vehicles. NATO forces intercepted a satellite phone call. They spotted the convoy. American drones and French fighter jets attacked, destroying multiple vehicles and killing dozens. Gaddafi and a few bodyguards took refuge in a large drainage pipe. Rebel fighters found him. They dragged him out of the pipe. Video footage shows him being beaten, bloodied, and humiliated. He begged for mercy. Shortly afterward, Muammar was shot and killed. The man who ruled Libya with absolute power for 42 years died in a street of his hometown, killed by his own people. It was a brutal and dignified end to one of the most dramatic political lives in modern history. So, what do we make of the legacy of Gaddafi? The truth is complicated. Gaddafi transformed Libya from one of the poorest nations of Africa into one of its richest. He built infrastructure, improved education and healthcare, and created the great man-made river. Under his rule, Libya achieved some of the highest living standards in Africa. But he was also a brutal dictator who crushed dissent, committed human rights abuses, ordered assassinations, and allegedly supported terrorism. He ruled through fear and violence. His dreams of Arab unity never came true. His foreign adventures mostly ended in failure, and in the end, his own people rose up against him. Since the death of Gaddafi, Libya has descended into chaos. Rival governments, militias, and foreign powers have divided the country. Many Libyans now look back on Gaddafi era, despite its repression, as a time of stability and prosperity. The story of Muammar Gaddafi teaches us important lessons about power, revolution, and the complexity of leadership. It shows us that leaders can be both transformative and tyrannical, visionary and violent, revolutionary and repressive. History will continue to debate the legacy of Gaddafi? Was he a hero who stood up to Western imperialism and built a prosperous nation? Or was he a ruthless dictator who oppressed his people and destabilized his region? Perhaps he was both, and that is what makes his story so fascinating and important to understand. What do you think about Muammar Gaddafi? Was he a visionary leader or a brutal tyrant? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy this deep dive into one of the most controversial figures of history, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. Now that you know the complete story about Muammar Gaddafi, you might be wondering about the Arab Spring that brought him down and how it affected other dictators across the Middle East. Well, I have got the perfect video for you. Click out my video on the Arab Spring, how dictators fell across the Middle East, where I explore how protests spread from Tunisia to Egypt, Libya, Syria, and beyond. Click here to watch next. Tell me if you found this story of Gaddafi compelling. You will be absolutely fascinated by the bigger picture of the Arab Spring. See you there.